A lot of people ask me how I started out and what I put in place to start out self-employed on my own and how they go about doing it themselves. So I'm going to give you the knowledge that I know now, as well as what led up to me becoming self-employed, and then what might help you, and then pros and cons, and perhaps the reality of self-employment. So I went self-employed, I think, coming up 2 years ago now, and it wasn't planned. It was overnight. It was, I mean, like, I lost my job that day, decided I was going self-employed the next day. I never planned to go self-employed. I had one other time I went self-employed, and not many people know about, where I went to work on the new builds because it was sold to me as kind of a money pit. And I went and worked there, and it was very much, anyone that's worked on housing sites as an electrician on price, you have to smash your body to pieces all day just to get 250 quid out of it. And I mean, it isn't worth it, because you've still got to pay for your van and stuff like that. You're always knackered, and yeah, I jacked that in pretty quick. But I was at a firm for years where I'd done my apprenticeship, pretty good firm. And then COVID happened and a few things changed, and ultimately it got to a point where I was like, look, I think it's time for me to move on, in a very nice and polite way. We all, you know, it's very amicable. I don't even know if I think that's the word. And yeah, I left. That's when I went self-employed. Didn't like it. Another job opportunity come up, and it was doing something I wanted to do, so I took it. Now, during the probation of that job, I actually broke my femur quite badly. I couldn't walk for like 3-4 months. So I lost my job again, and to be fair, again, to the business, from a business point of view, they did what they need to do. They're quite nice guys. I actually quite respect them. Looking at it now, at the time it was a bit, you know, sore, tender subject, but now looking back, they did what they had to do. I then went to another firm when I was back on my feet. That was just very much, I spent a few months there, and I turned around to them and they turned around to me. I said to them, this isn't for me, and they said no, fair enough. We shook each other's hands, and kind of just, I went another way, and then I went to another firm, and I actually quite enjoyed the firm. It was something different, very demanding, a lot of hours, but I actually enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the people I worked with. And then again, just before my probation was up, they let me go, and there was a bit of back and forth about what was the reason, stuff like that, and I put it down to lack of work, if I'm honest. But again, they're a business, on probation, they're allowed to do what they're allowed to do. And I got home that day with my tools literally piled at the bottom of the hallway in the flat I live. Had to figure out somewhere to put them. I think I ended up either putting them in my old van, because I still had my old van, or they might have gone into someone's garage. I think they actually went into someone's garage. And then on the phone, oh, we'll give you a job, it's this amount per hour. And I'm like, you know, I don't really want to. And then Anna come in and said, look, if you want to go self-employed, because we was looking for a house, and it mucked up the house scenario. And that was it. And I tell you what, I'm not even joking, within the space of about 5 minutes, I thought of the snappy name Quinpulse Electrical, now Quinpulse Services. That's how I went self-employed. Nothing in place, literally thrown in the deep end. But I was on it. I was joining Facebook groups, I was ringing people, I was getting the word out, and then within, I'd say, a couple of weeks, I had a friend of mine who worked for the maintenance firm say they're looking for a subby spark. Got chatting, and that's where like the mini series of Maintenance Wednesday come from. We got chatting, agreed a price, and it was me either going out on my own doing maintenance, or jumping in the van with my friend, going to do maintenance around certain places for the day. It was brilliant. And then for a wholesaler I knew, again getting the word out constantly, one of the guys that worked there actually put me in contact with the guy who does all the council work, and he was turned out to be quite a large contractor. Now that kind of sealed it. I didn't really need to do anything else for the money that was coming in, but I was still advertising my own work, doing my own stuff, doing social media. That's another thing. I started TikTok at the same time. In hindsight, still last week, I'm getting over it, I swear. In hindsight, I should have started the Instagram and Facebook at the same time, because TikTok's come on leaps and bounds now, and I'm still think Facebook's just hit 10k. Instagram is still growing. I think that's at 7,000. And the YouTube's a very new thing. Anyway, yeah, done the council work, and then I was just advertising. The TikToks helped, Facebook helped. People liked that they saw my face doing videos, and it really helped. Now, I was hungry for it. At first, I was taking everything. I was building a business, and everything I wanted to happen was happening. It's only when it got about a year down the line and the stress started building up more and more, and I got to a point of, this isn't what I wanted. You know, I was trying to arrange for lads to go and do jobs. I was trying to arrange for this, and it doesn't matter how reliable some people are, and it's always stressful when you've got to manage someone else, because the slightest hiccup, I can't come in today, or I've got to leave a bit early, I've got to messes everything up. And it got to a point where the work was getting more and more, and I started stepping back and slowing down, and I think certain people noticed it. Not as much is coming in, still some's coming in. With that, the maintenance as it stands has stopped, not because I asked to stop it. It just seems the maintenance sector is very quiet at the moment. I'd actually like for that to start up again, because that was easy. I'd go in, do the day's work, go home, send my invoice, that was it. But now you need that balance of, there's in my opinion, there's a phrase I use called ROI, which is return on investment. Now, if you're making loads of money, but you're putting in all the hours under the sun every day at the weekend, that's a very poor return on investment, because you're just not living. You're just making money, and then one day you can go outside and your heart just stops. Do you know what I mean? All that money was for nothing. I always say to people, if you can go out in a day, maybe every day, right, and you could make £500, but you've had to work 12 to bloody 14-hour shifts every day, you're knackered, you get home, you go straight to bed. As opposed to, let's say you were making £20 a day, but you weren't doing anything to get it necessarily. You've done something, now it's just earning you money. Right? That's a better return on investment, in my opinion, than the £500 a day. Because it's income that you're not having to work for. Well, sorry, you've worked for it, but now it's earning you money in the background. And things like that are very important. And there's a video coming out soon. It's to do with bank accounts and stuff like that, and things that can earn you money without doing things. It's going to be an interesting topic. But yeah, at the moment, I'm now doing a lot of subbing. I prefer my subbing. And the firms I work for let me film. I really enjoy filming. I enjoy doing all the social media stuff, and it's opened up a lot of really great doors. But what about those that are starting to go self-employed? What can I advise, and what are the pros and cons? So if you're in a position where maybe you're employed and you're thinking of going self-employed, first thing to do is get yourself a van, and I don't mean a brand new spanker. Go and get yourself, in my opinion, something that's old, something that cheap. Alright, it might break down, but you're still going to save more money than if you go and try and buy a spanking new van. Get that done, join some groups, get some social medias make up. One of the most important things nowadays is, I always say, get on all your social media platforms, even if you're not advertising your work as such, because I don't necessarily advertise work anymore. It's just me, day in the life electrician. It creates that portfolio, and people know who you are then. And then when you decide to make the jump, before you do it, you've got to make sure public liability is in place with your electrician, and you're going to be notifying work. You need to join a scheme. I know it's a lot of money to fork out, but if you've got some money behind you, you can make it work. And then yeah, I always advise trying to find a firm or two that are quite big, that will give you subby work or price work, because if you try and do it all on your own and you're solely domestic, you're either going to struggle to earn what you want to earn, or you'll be working all hours under the sun, but you won't be earning nothing. Now the reality of it is, something some might struggle with, and I did when I first started, is when you're employed, you get your wages every month. Every month, and it gets rooted into your subconscious, money's going into your account at that point. It's not like that self-employed. You're working for yourself, you could be waiting a week, a month, you've got money coming in at different times that you have to keep track of. You almost have to adjust from doing your hours, knowing you're getting paid, to once you set an invoice off, keep an eye on it. You know, some people, even though it's got like during the same day, during 7 days, people will try it on. And you got to keep on the ball with it. Terms and conditions are another good one. You can find terms and conditions on forums, stuff like that. Alter them to your own specifications. That way, if someone does try it on but they've agreed to it, you can go for debt collection, and 9 times out of 10 you'll be successful. If you sub in, some firms are subby too. They pay same day, they pay weekly. So again, that's another good thing for building up a subby base, is that you'll get paid quite regularly. Bank accounts, make separate bank accounts. Not only that, but if you're doing work for yourself, you're in a good position where when you work for yourself, you're getting all the money, as opposed to when you work for someone, they take your tax off you. Now, if you're getting all your money, I would advise opening up interest accounts, easy access, and then building that as your pot, putting all your money into there, and every month you'll earn interest on top of money that's your tax money. So you're almost earning money for money that's not yours. Ultimately, the reality of it is you probably won't switch off. What you have to do, in my opinion, like I've started doing now, is I don't work as hard and often. I'm not trying to find work. I more or less just ask if there's work. If one of the firms turn one day and say there's no work on, I'll have that day off, edit my videos and stuff like that. Or I'll have my own stuff I can book in. But I don't want it to get to a point where I've got too much on, I'm having to find other people to do it, because it's just too stressful and it's not worth your time. You don't have to work Monday to Friday. If you're off, so I have Tuesdays off for an example. If you're having a Tuesday off with no work, that doesn't mean you're a bad businessman. That just, I do it on purpose. I'm not hunting for work as such, and I earn enough to warrant it. Some people say you lose your freedom when you go self-employed. That's why people do it, for the freedom. Some people say you lose your freedom. Now that I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, I have all my freedom back. And you know, time is more precious than money. So when people say they have no time to themselves, it usually means they're booking in too much, making loads of money. But at the end of the year, when you look back throughout the year, how happy were you? But that's just my kind of take, my story. Yeah, I never would have gone self-employed, if I'm honest. If that firm kept me on, I probably would have still been there now. I always banked on employment being the safest bet, but that was kind of the last straw of, well, I keep going to all these firms because people tell me that it's the safest bet, and they just keep letting you go. And it's horrible, you know, even when you're out of probation, some firms I've heard will find ways to get rid of people, and sometimes you're better off just being self-employed in the first place. And one thing that was annoying as well, because it messed up our going to get a house, and I started the job. Within a month we went to apply for a mortgage, and I gave them my payslip, told them where I worked, and they went, yeah, you can have a mortgage. A couple months later they let me go. Now I've been self-employed for a year and a half, I think. A year's worth of books for sole trade that were really good. Haven't got my books for limited yet, because I went limited for many reasons. And they tried turning around at first, well, this is one mortgage advisor, and saying that, no, you're too much of a risk. I was like, how am I more of a risk now than when they offered me a mortgage and I got let go 2 months later? And they were like, oh, because it showed that you had a steady income. And I was like, yeah, but they let me go like 2 months later. But yeah, I'm getting a bit off subject now. Yeah, put it in the comments, your experiences, what you guys think, especially with all the tax changes and that in Britain. It's almost not as worthwhile. But if you do it right, I don't think I could ever go back employed now, if I'm honest. I enjoy the freedom, I enjoy my filming, I enjoy working with people, brands and stuff like that. And you wouldn't be able to do that employed, because the second you whip out a camera, working on someone else's job on their time, they're going to be like, what are you doing? You know, you need to get back to work. But put it in the comments, guys, what you think. If you're self-employed, maybe put your view on the subject. Ultimately, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, it does really help me out. It shows support. I put a lot of time into this, you know, an awful lot to me. But yeah, hope that helps. Stay tuned for the next one.